Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from RicoScores coming with a way too early mock draft. 2021 mock draft. But because it's so early, I want to give y'all dual scenarios. This is a dual mock draft, as in two. I'm giving y'all two different scenarios. One scenario is if we go 7-9, we end up winning the division, whether it be Kyle Allen playing well enough to win this division, or he plays poorly enough and Haskins comes back and plays well enough to win this division. Either way, this division is very weak. The Eagles, we have to play them one more time, and they're only getting more and more hurt as the season goes on. The Cowboys aren't playing up to their level of talent and are also starting to see a lot of injuries hit them, and we have to play them twice, and we still have to play the 0-4 Giants twice, and they're just bad, especially without Saquon. And as much as people get on Haskins, Daniel Jones is even worse, especially decision-making wise. But yeah, I want to do a mock draft for if we are the 7-9 division winners, which would put us towards the later part of the draft as far as each round goes. We would end up having the 25th pick. I mean, even teams that win 11 games, if they don't win their division, they pick before us. All of the division winners get the last picks, and of course we'll be the first out of the division winners to pick in the draft because we would have the worst record out of all of the division winners. But at the same time, we would pick behind people with 8, 9, 10 or even 11 wins just because we won the division and they didn't, and we would pick 25th in the first round. And again, you never know, we might end up winning this division. It's terrible. Kyle Allen may be better than I think he is, and we may end up going 6-6 for the rest of the year. That doesn't sound too unrealistic, honestly. Going 500 for the rest of the season with Lando 7-9, and as long as 4 of those 6 wins are against the division, I'm pretty sure we would end up winning the division. But then there's also the scenario that we end up going 3-13 or maybe 4-12 or possibly even terribly only winning one more game for the rest of the season and going 2-14. I don't know, but either way, I have a scenario where we end up having a top 3 pick in the draft. There's definitely a scenario out there where we start to gain injuries to the only good players we have left, and then Trey Apke may end up starting the rest of the year. Kyle Allen may be even worse than I think he is, and then Haskins comes back and doesn't develop at all. There's definitely a scenario where we end up going 3-13. Not necessarily rooting for it, but it's definitely a strong possibility with how this team is set up, especially with Ron Rivera and Kyle Smith opting to go for player development rather than actually filling team needs in the offseason, whether it be through draft or free agency. I mean, if you think about it, our biggest wide receiver signing was Dontrell Inman in the draft. The first receiver we took was Antonio Gandy-Golden in the 5th round. Everybody else came as undrafted free agents. Trey Apke is starting at safety. Landon Collins has regressed. The offensive line is bottom 5 in the league according to advanced statistics DVOA from the Football Outsiders with their efficiency ratings. I mean, this team is just not built to win regardless of who's at quarterback. But you never know. We could go 7-9 and win the division. We could go 3-13 and end up having a top 3 pick. And I want to give y'all mock drafts for both scenarios. Of course, the 3-13 mock draft sounds beautiful. It's amazing. But you'd be surprised at how much talent we can get with even a 7-9 record, which is a great scenario for all of the people out there that hate the idea of tanking. And also throughout this mock draft, I want to give y'all player comps. I'm not about to do advanced breakdowns of people's weaknesses and strengths and all of that type of stuff like I normally do in mock drafts. This is a way too early one. There's still so much film to watch on these guys throughout the college football season, but I want to give y'all who I think their player comps are as of right now as we go through the mock draft. And before we get to the mock drafts, our top 7 needs are easily safety, offensive tackle, wide receiver, linebacker, guard, tight end, and in my opinion, quarterback, especially as far as the road to get us to a Super Bowl the quickest. If we want to actually start winning Super Bowls, we need to have quarterbacks that can go toe-to-toe with the Pat Mahomes, the Russell Wilsons, the Aaron Rodgers, the Kyler Murrays, the Lamar Jacksons, the Josh Allens of the world. In my opinion, even Kyle Allen on his best day isn't that. And I'm not too sure if Dwayne Haskins will ever become that. Can't guarantee you that at all. So far, his trajectory looks like he won't be that. But you never know. But top prospect at each of those needs. At quarterback, you have Trevor Lawrence. At safety, you have Hamza Nasirullah. At tackle, you have Penei Sewell. At wide receiver, you have Jamar Chase. At linebacker, you have Micah Parsons. At guard, and this one's still kind of up in the air, but if I had to put my money on somebody, like if I had to, I would say Creed Humphrey is probably the top guard prospect coming out of this draft, but we'll see. And at tight end, Kyle Pitts. Especially for what we need, a dominant receiving tight end, like a healthy version of Jordan Reed that can hopefully block as well. Now to get to this mock draft. I'm gonna start with the 3 and 13 scenario, but also this could be like a somewhere in the middle, 5 and 11. That's why I'm saying that maybe if we have a top 3 pick, we go and get Trevor Lawrence. Comp, different. I mean, it's hard to explain. I want to compare him to Peyton Manning, but with mobility. He has that sneaky speed, kind of like Pat Mahomes. But it's hard to compare anybody to one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, Peyton Manning. But if there were any draft prospects since Peyton Manning has ever existed that you may be able to compare to him, it's Trevor Lawrence. So if we go 3 and 13, top 3 pick, we can go get Trevor Lawrence, because a lot of the really bad teams out here actually don't necessarily seem like they're going quarterback unless they surprise us and dip on the quarterbacks they currently have. So that's where we look out this year. If we're in the market for a quarterback in the draft and we want one of these top 3 guys between Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, or Trey Lance, if you go look at this NFL standings right now, a lot of the worst teams, the Giants look like they want to stick with Daniel Jones. Sam Darnold is a wild card right now, but you never know. They already plan on keeping Adam Gase the rest of this season. And Adam Gase has already said that Sam Darnold is the starting quarterback for the rest of the season as long as he's healthy. So it sounds like they kind of believe in him. But who knows? But either way, there are 3 great quarterbacks that we can get in the top 7 in the draft. So 3 and 13, 5 and 10. Either way, top 3 pick, get Trevor Lawrence. Top 7 pick, get Justin Fields. And Justin Fields' comp, in my opinion, is really just a faster but weaker Cam Newton. Same kind of sort of accuracy issues, and not Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray fast at all. But strong enough to be able to eat hits, but he's not Cam Newton. Nobody really is Cam Newton. Cam Newton and Ben Roethlisberger are their own levels of strength. Justin Fields is not that, but at least he makes up for it by being a little bit faster. Then in round 2, I have us getting tight end Brevin Jordan. To me, he has Travis Kelce potential. I mean, you can literally line him up right next to the tackle and let him block edge rushers, NFL level edge rushers. He has some work to do in that department, but you've seen flashes to where he's definitely not a Jordan Reed or Vernon Davis blocking wise. He can actually block. He has the tools and potential. And then at the same time in the receiving game, you can put him in the slot. You can put him out wide. He can run just about almost any route. I mean, he literally has Travis Kelce potential, and I feel like he may only make it to the second round just because of how raw he kind of is, but I feel like he will go early in the second round if he makes it, and that's why I'm only giving him to us in the second round in this scenario if we go 3 and 13 or 5 and 10 at the furthest back in this scenario. Then round 3, you have linebacker Jabril Cox. Love this guy. Small school linebacker, transferred to LSU, already got a pick 6 his first game as an LSU Tiger. And to me, he's basically a taller but raw version of Darius Leonard. He has a lot of potential. I really believe he'll be a great player, and I really hope we end up getting him. I mock drafted him to us, I think in like the 5th or 6th round last year, but then he chose to stay another year and transfer to LSU, and I hope we get a chance to get him. I really do. I think he's going to be really special at the linebacker position. Then we have another pick in the 3rd round because of the Trent Williams trade, and I'm taking safety Javon Holland out of Oregon. And to me, he's like a jack of all trades, Minkah Fitzpatrick. Like how Minkah Fitzpatrick is a king of all trades. You can put him at free safety, strong safety, slot corner, outside corner. Javon Holland is basically the same thing, but he's just not as great at any of those things as a Minkah Fitzpatrick. So he can be a deadly Swiss Army knife, but he's going to have to develop a little bit more for us to actually see him become a king of all trades. He has the athleticism to do it, but he's just a fairly raw version of Minkah Fitzpatrick. But that's a huge compliment, and he can be a dominant safety in this league if a team is willing to take him and develop him. And then the last round I'm going to do is round 4 for each of these drafts. And in this draft, I have us taking wide receiver Anthony Schwartz. Basically a taller but a raw version of Henry Ruggs. He ran the exact same 40 time as Henry Ruggs, I think maybe even a little bit faster. And Henry Ruggs is 5'11". Anthony Schwartz is 6'1". Now, he's raw in a lot of areas, which Henry Ruggs actually really wasn't that much raw. His route running was better than you would expect out of a speed demon. His jump ball ability was better than what you expect out of a track star speed demon. Anthony Schwartz isn't necessarily there yet like a Henry Ruggs, but he's going to get a lot of opportunities in this Auburn offense this season to show what he can really do, and he may work himself up out of the 4th round. But right now, he's pretty raw, and that's the only reason I feel like he can make it to the 4th round. If he doesn't develop at all, and if the draft were to happen today, he would make it to the 4th round just because of how raw he is, but his immense potential is crazy. And with how bad Steven Sims has looked this year, between being banged up and even when healthy, he just hasn't looked as good as he looked the end of last year. He could be a great replacement in the slot to go opposite of Terry McLaurin. I mean, that could be deadly. 4.27 speed at 6'1" with shiftiness. He's not just straight line fast. He has a crazy agility, can make people miss. I mean, they just hand him the ball in the backfield and let him take it all the way to the house for 50-yard touchdowns. I mean, he's that explosive. And I like the direction we're going in with like Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick. We're just putting together a team full of explosive athletes. If we're not necessarily better than you, we're at least going to be stronger, faster, more athletic than you, and we can be able to punish you that way at the very least. And then as far as offensive tackle and guard, couldn't address it early in these rounds. But if you go and look at the 2021 free agency options, there's a lot of options out there at both guard and tackle. And I feel like really with our top 3 cap space, we can really go out there and get some top-notch talent like David Bakhtiari at tackle, Joe Thuney at guard. I mean, that's if these guys don't re-sign with their teams or get franchise tagged. But we have more money to offer them than either of their teams can offer them. So there's a strong possibility of that. And I feel like, honestly, after this draft, we're ready to go to a Super Bowl. Because Justin Fields is a little bit more raw than Trevor Lawrence, but both of them are great talents. And I love Trey Lance. And I wanted to include him in one of these mock drafts, but he's just a little too raw. And if we're picking top 7, you have to take Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields. And then with the 25th pick in this upcoming mock draft I'm about to give y'all, he won't last that long. He's going top 17, top 20. And I really think he can be great. To me, he's kind of like a Carson Wentz, where he's maybe a little bit rawer than Carson Wentz. So you're banking on his potential and his athletic tools. Kind of like a Josh Allen also. But if he turns out to be great, he can really be great. But I feel like after this mock draft and free agency that I just gave y'all with the 3 and 13 or the 5 and 11 scenario, we can be strong Super Bowl candidates, honestly. Now moving on to the 7 and 9 division winners mock draft. And when I say division winners, I'm like expecting us to go into the wild card, and whoever we go against, I just can't see us beating them. I can't see us beating the Seahawks. I can't see us beating the Packers, all of those great NFC teams in the playoffs. So I think we can possibly win a division, but I definitely don't see us making a Super Bowl with Kyle Allen where he is yet, or Dwayne Haskins where he is right now. Never know. One of them may catch fire and suddenly develop right before our eyes, but as of right now, going off of what I've seen in the past from Dwayne Haskins and Kyle Allen, they're both decent enough to possibly win us a division, but beyond that, But on to the mock draft. With the 25th pick in the first round, I see us taking safety Hamza Nasirulline. And basically, he's a faster but raw version of Derwin James or Isaiah Simmons. He's a freak athlete. Or if you want to look at it burgundy and gold wise, he's a freak athlete version of Cameron Curl. Which is why I'm not even sure if he's going to make it to the 25th pick. This is just me hoping. I think he's going to be one of the top talents in the draft. Because even around this time in October last year, Isaiah Simmons was projected to go later in the first round because people just weren't talking about him enough. But once people actually watched his film and he started to put up more game tape for Clemson, then he rose up to being estimated going to the top 5 and being one of the highest potential talents in that draft. I feel like Hamza Nasirulline will have a similar trajectory. Right now, if the draft were to happen today, he probably could make it to the 25th pick. But honestly, by the time draft season officially rolls around and he puts up more tape for Florida State, I think he's going to end up going in the top 10. But, I mean, he is a ridiculous talent. I mean, you never know. Derwin James, probably because of his health issues, which have shown up in the NFL a lot, he went outside the top 10, so you never know. But, I mean, he's basically a faster but raw version of Derwin James. Very versatile. I mean, crazy. Just like a Cameron Curl, he's a freak athlete version of Cameron Curl. See, Cameron Curl is very versatile. He can play slot corner, outside corner, box safety. Not necessarily free safety, but you know what I'm saying. The only reason he can't really play free safety is because he's not fast enough to. And that's his problem. He's very limited athleticism-wise. Very versatile IQ-wise. Has a lot of experience playing pretty much everywhere in the back end of a defense, but he's just very limited athleticism wise, while Hamza Nasirulline might be one of the most athletic guys in this upcoming 2021 draft. So he would be a great talent to be able to get after winning the division, and that would permanently solve our safety problem. We have had safety problems ever since Sean Taylor has been gone. Here's my Sean Taylor jersey, man. That's my boy right there. I mean, DJ Swearinger showed some potential, and I can't remember every safety that we've had since Sean Taylor, but of recent memory, DJ Swearinger was probably the most consistent, because Landon Collins looks terrible this year. He's definitely not looking worth the money we're paying him. I don't know what happened, because last year he led our team in tackles. Now he can't make an open field tackle. But Hamsah could come in and solve that problem immediately, be that true deep safety that we need. Or you can put him as a box safety if you need him to, or if for some reason you need him to play slot corner. I mean, he could be the ultimate chess piece on defense, and offenses will never know what his responsibility is on any given snap, and that can create a lot of turnovers, especially with this defensive line. And then round 2, I have offensive tackle Dylan Radunes. He's basically a higher IQ and awareness Josh Jones, who went in the first round last year to the Cardinals. I mean, you can't teach his elite length, and he's pretty athletic. His IQ is very high. Really, his only negatives is that he blocks for North Dakota State, so he hasn't gone against the best of the best defensive linemen in college. But for the opponents he's gone against, he's done everything he's needed to. He's handled his job. He beats the guy in front of him repeatedly, over and over again, consistently, and that's all you can ask him to do. I mean, of course, he's a little raw in some areas, but potential wise, he can end up being a Pro Bowl level left tackle talent, and possibly what we've been looking for to replace Trent Williams. Then in the 3rd round, I have guard Deontay Brown. He's basically like a slightly raw Joel Bitonio from the Cleveland Browns. Very athletic, freakishly strong. He just needs to improve his technique, so faster, quicker guys with better technique can't beat him. But nobody's going to bull rush this guy, point blank, period. You're going to have to find another way. You're going to have to be quicker than him because you're not going to be stronger than him. And having a guard like that we can mold into a technically refined, dominant, really powerful guard could prove to be extremely beneficial for this team, especially in the run game. And even in the passing game, his anchor is second to none. But again, he just has to learn some better technique, get his footwork more refined and more active so that the faster, better technique interior defensive linemen can't just run by him. They're never going to run through him. And then in the 3rd round, Anthony Schwartz again, the wide receiver, taller, Henry Ruggs. I'm trying to get him no matter what. I don't care what our record ends up being at the end of the season. We need to take a close look at Anthony Schwartz. And y'all will probably see him in another mock draft later in this year as we get closer to the draft process. And then in the 4th round, just like I did with the previous draft where we can choose between 2 quarterbacks, I feel the same in this draft, but in the 4th round, we can either get Jamie Newman or Derrick King. Now, Jamie Newman, my comp for him is basically a less consistent, more raw, and slightly slower Justin Fields. Or, really to make it more simple, he's basically a raw and less accurate version of Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun Watson's intangibles are just second to none. You just don't find those in any other quarterback, especially playing big games like he played for Clemson against great talents like Alabama and all of those very big games he's had to play, winning a national championship. Jamie Newman does not have anything close to that in his belt. But if we're just talking about sheer traits, he's basically just a raw and slightly less accurate version of a Deshaun Watson, which is somebody you can bring in, and he may not be ready to start day one, but he can be a very special quarterback. And I wish he would have played this year with my Georgia Bulldogs so we could have gotten a better look at him with him going against better talent, going against Florida and Auburn and Tennessee and all of these guys, better defenses, but, you know, we'll see. And then Derrick King, basically he's either going to be Kyler Murray or Julian Edelman. If y'all remember, Julian Edelman was a college quarterback, but when he got to the NFL, he just couldn't learn how to be accurate enough. His decision making wasn't there. All of the things that basically separate a running back from a very efficient mobile quarterback like a Lamar Jackson or a Kyler Murray. So he can either be, he can surprise us and end up being Kyler Murray, which is his potential, an almost generational level talent at quarterback, which would be a crazy steal in the 4th round, but I'm pretty sure he will make it there, or maybe even later in the draft, just because people aren't sure that if he'll be able to work out those issues he has. I mean, there are a lot of scouts out there that think he may be an even riskier prospect than a Jalen Hurts coming out of college at Oklahoma. But we'll see. Again, he can either be Kyler Murray, one of the brightest young quarterback talents in the NFL, maybe even potentially an MVP candidate, or he can end up being Julian Edelman and being forced to move to wide receiver like Julian Edelman, or maybe play running back or whatever. But it's up to him to develop himself. Now, so far, he's looked pretty good for Miami, but we'll see. It's not just about winning games. It's about showing certain traits. It's about showing your decision making, your pocket awareness, your accuracy, putting a certain type of touch on certain passes, all of that type of stuff. The difficult parts about being a QB and not just being fast or having a strong arm. All of the things that Tom Brady has excelled at, because he's not more athletic than anybody. He doesn't have a stronger arm than many people, but he's just been legendarily great at all of the things that make a quarterback great. Like I said, decision making, accuracy, pocket awareness, pocket movement, all of that stuff. Those are the areas that Derrick King is going to have to prove that he can improve in. But yeah, man, I love both of these mock drafts. Honestly, if Kyle Smith and Ron Rivera follow my plan, I feel like we can turn around and be honest Super Bowl contenders next year. And especially if we were to win the division this year with either Kyle Allen or Dwayne Haskins, with that mock draft I gave y'all for the 7-9 scenario, bringing in a Jamie Newman or Derrick King to come compete at the quarterback room. If one of them wins, then that's an upgraded quarterback. And then we've also improved the tackle, guard, wide receiver positions, and safety, most importantly. And again, after free agency, with the top 3 cap space we have, I definitely feel like we can be Super Bowl contenders. I don't feel like this is going to be a 3 to 5 year rebuild like some people think. I think we have a lot of great young pieces on this team. We just need to finish the team and fill our team needs, which is something we didn't do this past offseason. Ron Rivera and Kyle Smith deliberately showed that they weren't trying to fill team needs. They wanted to bring in as much young talent as possible and let them go out there, show what they can do, make their mistakes, develop or not develop, sink or swim. But the goal this past offseason was not to necessarily make this team better, to produce wins immediately. And I feel like once we actually address an offseason in a way that where we're trying to win games immediately and we're actually filling team needs in the draft and free agency, I feel like we're literally just one offseason away from being Super Bowl contenders, honestly, especially if we get the quarterback position correct. If Kyle Allen develops into a franchise guy, if Dwayne Haskins develops into a franchise guy, or if we go and get Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields and they're ready to start day one, or we can go and get a Jamie Newman and Derrick King and see if they're ready to start day one. But I feel like we're literally just a couple of pieces away from being a really great team, honestly. But definitely get in the comments and let me know how y'all feel about this mock draft. Definitely put me on to any prospects that weren't listed in this mock draft that you may know about that may be some great pickups for us in the draft. Also, definitely get in the comments and let me know if you prefer the 3 and 13 scenario or the 7 and 9 scenario. And I'm not talking about just who we drafted, but also if you prefer to tank or if you prefer to actually try to go and win this division. But either way, one of the main motivations of making this mock draft was so that a lot of the people that want to tank can see that even with a 7 and 9 record, we can still get some really good talent out of this draft, and we don't necessarily have to tank to become Super Bowl contenders next year. But honestly, going for a Trevor Lawrence, he would immediately be the best quarterback in his division, in my opinion. I mean, day one. And that alone makes you an honest Super Bowl contender. To have one of the best quarterbacks in the league, even if the rest of the team around you is not that great, you can get carried to Super Bowls. I mean, just like Aaron Rodgers has done, Russell Wilson has done. A great quarterback can truly change a team. I mean, Pat Mahomes, the Chiefs team around Pat Mahomes isn't even that great. But when you have a quarterback that's just that much of a generational talent, you can make miracles happen. And I feel like this team around the quarterback isn't 3 years away from being Super Bowl contenders. We're not good this year. But again, once we actually address team needs and become aggressive in free agency with the top 3 cap space we'll have, if you add a Trevor Lawrence to this team after this offseason, I don't see how we're not favorites to win the NFC East, honestly. But again, let me know how y'all feel about the mock draft. Put me on to some prospects that I didn't mention in this video, because I'm curious. I can't watch film on everybody. It's early in the season. So if you know any guys that y'all think that I should go watch film on and possibly include in my next mock drafts throughout the rest of this season and going into the off season, definitely feel free to. I'll definitely watch film on all of those guys. May not be immediately, but you know what I'm saying, we have till April. And definitely please like this video if you liked it. If you learned anything, please subscribe if you haven't. Definitely hit the bell next to the subscription button so you can get a notification every time I release a video like this, every time I schedule a live stream, and every time I start a live stream. And definitely expect more film sessions like the ones I've been coming out with since the regular season started on players on our team. I'm thinking about doing a Kyle Allen film session after his debut. And also definitely expect a lot of mock drafts and a lot of draft talk on this channel also for the rest of this season. And of course the off season. And also, big shout out to all of my supporters, all of my sponsors, especially the Pro Bowl sponsors whose names you see scrolling on the screen right now, and everybody that donates to the channel. It means a lot to me. Y'all are helping me live out my dream of being a sports reporter, and I really appreciate it. And again, I'm coming out with endless content. Y'all already know the 3 live streams minimum that y'all get every week, the 1 film session you get at least every week, and then I'm gonna throw in more videos like this. Of course, I'm gonna report on any major news that comes out, and I'm really excited, man. But I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.